Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about comeback potential. What is comeback potential? The ability to come back. What does it mean? We're gonna find out. Let's get into the game. Okay, so here's a game of Vanguard that I played, and we've got me, Vendetta, and then over here we've got Mad Shiro, and we've got QuakeCom and Foxy Mayhem. Vendetta's just a troll name. Don't worry about it. This is really JaKaTaK. It's a trick. You've been fooled. All right. In any case, comeback potential it exists, right? It exists pretty much no matter what you do. If you have a game that has zero comeback potential, if it's impossible to come back, then as soon as any team gets ahead, even in the slightest way, they win the game, right? Because it becomes impossible to come back from any deficit. Every single deficit leads to a victory or defeat. So we're gonna come around here. Oh my god, we killed the Reaper. Wait a minute, we didn't lose anything. Oh my god, our team lost 30, their team lost 50. Guess what? We win the video game. Luckily, we do have comeback potential, so we can continue playing the replay. But I think that the thing that is sort of what I'm looking to do and what we're looking to do as a team is to destroy perception of or lack of perception of the ability to come back. And what I mean by that is, I think it's most important that you know when the game is over. Because there are a lot of situations in RTS where you don't know if the game's over or not. You get into a deficit, probably a little bit bigger of a deficit than the enemy team got themselves into just them by losing a small scouting unit, but you get into some kind of a deficit, right? You're behind, and you try to find a way to come back. You try to find an edge to get back into the game. But sometimes, and especially for new players, it's really difficult to tell, okay, am I really far behind or not? Should I just leave the game? And that feeling of, should I just leave the game, is awful. You're sitting around and you're thinking to yourself, I'm playing this game, I'm putting all my effort into it, and it's just like, should I just give up? I've spent like 10, 15 minutes in games of StarCraft just being like, oh, should I even be trying right now? Is this just a waste of my time? Should I just leave the game and give up? Because in a game like chess, there's checkmate, and really good chess players can see checkmate, 3, 4, 5, 7, 22 moves out, whatever. But there's checkmate, and that's the game. And if you can see checkmate, you can say, okay, the game is over. But StarCraft, RTS in general, is an incredibly complex genre of game, and so there isn't that checkmate, right? It isn't like a MOBA where you have this Nexus or Ancients or whatever you want to call it, where that's the end of the game, and you can focus all your attention around it, and you can say, okay, if this is going to die, or if this scenario happens, the game is over. In RTS, there are so many different scenarios that mean that the game is over. So what we're gonna try to do, and what I think we've already accomplished this in a major way already in the prototype, is destroy that space, right? Between, should I even try? And the game is over, right? We want to make that, should I even try? Oh wait, no I shouldn't, the game is over. And we can fix that with a variety of mechanics, and I think it's mostly about perception. It's mostly about making it really, really clear to the player that the game is or is not over. And we're getting to that right now. Okay, so here I am. Let's see, I've opened with 2 upgrades and 3 gases, 2 expansions. Got a Hydralisk Den here, a little bit of units, 2 overlords. Okay, so I can make some amount of units. That's pretty good. Oh, look at that. And I've got a couple of scouting units. But for the most part, I have almost nothing to defend. Oh my god, proxy banshees. What? Proxy, oh, what? This is the worst thing in the world to lose to. It is a lesson to me not to open super greedy like this. This is ridiculous greed. It's just basically gambling. I just decided to gamble this game, and it was a bad move. So I start freaking out when this happens. They just roll into my base. I didn't see this coming. I wasn't really paying attention to scouting like I should have, and I'm just freaking out. Matt Shiro's over here. He's like, hey, calm down. Jack, just take it easy. You've got me. Just run over to my Nidus Destroyer and keep your units safe, and you'll be okay. And I'll be like, oh man, I'm losing everything. I feel like this game is over. He's like, no, it's not over. It's not over. You got me. I've got Lings out on the map. I'm doing stuff. I'm making things happen. And part of the reason why that is possible, as we watch my base get destroyed, part of the reason why it's possible that Mad Shiro is allowed to have these units out on the map is something called retreatability, which is this, you know, semi-intuitive word, but we'll break it down for a second. It's the idea that you can move out onto the map with some units, and if you get into a situation where you're in a losing fight, you can retreat. You can just pull back and retreat, and you'll pretty much be okay, right? Like this situation, look at this. There are lings all over the place. If Mad Shiro decides he wants to just pull these units back because he is in a losing fight, he can absolutely do that. Instead, he's gonna be harassing this location. But he can absolutely do that because the unit speeds in the early game are toned down a lot. Zergling speed is pushed out in tech, it's not on hatchery tech. And that means that we have less of these super map dominant scenarios. And players can sort of find ways to come back, right? Find ways to get edges, because it's part of this whole system that encourages players to get out on the map, interact with their opponent, and the more interactions that you have with your opponents, the more likely the better player is going to come out ahead, which is nice. It adds that really nice sort of consistency to things, that stability, which is not a super sexy word, but it feels good, right, to have a stable situation. One of the more frustrating things in RTS is that those really high volatility situations, like Ling Bane in StarCraft, for example, it's like very stressful, can be very frustrating. One mistake can end the game in ZVZ, in Ling Bane Wars. It's awful, and that's just this frustrating thing. So we bring in this stability with retreatability, which is just, you know, we change the movement speeds around a bit, just so that everyone can have a good idea of what's going on, and just so that you can pull back. But the other thing is we increased a lot of the hit points of many of the units and decreased the damage, and that extends the duration of battles slightly, and that will basically, again, that adds that stability and consistency. We're seeing a little bit of retreatability over here, despite the fact that the mutas are faster. They're not so much faster that they just swarm and kill everything. So that's kind of what it is. It's really like the difference in speeds between units is a little bit tighter in some situations, and of course that opens up as the game comes along. We're seeing Zergling speed getting researched, and my ally is ripping apart the map. He's coming through. I think he's gonna kill this base, which is pretty sick. A little bit of misdirection over here while the base gets destroyed. Really, really nice use of multitasking, of playing with your opponent's attention, and Mad Shiro's really good at that. He's been doing that quite a bit in many playtests, so I'm getting carried hard. Okay, so let's pause for a second. By the way, at this point, I've probably asked Shiro if we can GG like 3 or 4 times by now, and he's like, no, we're not GGing. And one of the only things I can do is creep spreads, so I just have creep all over the place. But he's like, no, don't GG, we're gonna keep fighting, we're gonna do this. And he's taking 4 bases. We can take a look at the information over here in the bottom. Our income total, despite the fact that I got destroyed in the early game, is better than our opponents. We're the 2 middle, right? And they're the outside, because that's the way sometimes, like, whether you're player 1 or player 2 in StarCraft has to do with when you join the lobby, which is a bit weird, and it messes with the 2v2 dynamic. So that's why these things don't line up so well. But inside, outside is this particular setup. So we have more income. That's cool. We have more gas income, more mineral income. We have a lot more units lost. And this has been Mad Shiro's strategy. This has been Mad Shiro's way to get us back into the game is, okay, you can rely on me, right? The fact that this is a 2v2 RTS and not a 1 versus 1 RTS creates a lot more opportunities to come back, just sort of naturally. Just being 2v2 does that. So we have the econ advantage, and overall our army size, our combined army sizes are smaller, but Mad Shiro's got actually the biggest army in the game, and he's just throwing it away. Not for nothing, but he's throwing it at his opponent, which is one of my favorite parts about Brood War Zerg strategy, is that playing Zerg in Brood War, you have a lot of opportunities for this kind of a strategy where you're just like, I'm gonna trade cost inefficiently, but I'm gonna have so much income compared to you that I'm just gonna rip things apart, and I can trade cost inefficiently because I have more income. Look at that, cancels another base. This base gets canceled like 3 or 4 times this game. It's phenomenal. And so he's all over the place. He's using this cost inefficient strategy and running around, and that's mainly due to the economic system. We're not gonna get too much into that, but the economic system is different and allows for this kind of strategy to exist because all the bases are not created equal, and your main is a huge part of your income, lasts twice as long, mines twice as fast, etc. So we have these, we haven't talked too much about the fortification points. Let's find one. There we go. We got a watchtower over here, and we've got these Nidus destroyers out and about, and that has allowed us to basically sustain for a long period of time. Had there not been Nidus destroyers, once one of us was dead, the other one was almost always going to be completely dead as long as both teams, both enemies, yellow and red, go ahead and come in together and just attack and kill us all. Very tough battle. The Corruptors are much better than the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks, little paper planes, gotta watch out for him. And he's gonna be coming in, and we're gonna get, I think, pretty soon here to one of the cooler moments of the game. So I made a huge mistake early on, and at this point I'm starting to catch up. I've taken a lot of bases. All this attention taxing from Mad Shiro has allowed me to expand safely because he's messing with our opponents so much that they just don't have the time to come across the map, or maybe just not the attention to come across the map and mess with me. And we're gonna get, where is this? It's coming up real soon here. Mad Shiro's gonna make a mistake, and he's been playing so well, almost the entire game, but he's gonna make a really critical mistake against a super powerful unit, the Splash Viking. That's right, Vikings do splash damage. Vikings do splash damage in this video game. Hold on a sec. If you have any young Zerglings in the area, please tell them to turn away at this time. This will not be pretty. Okay, here we go. Let's watch this in slow motion. The Splash Viking, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god! So much is gonna be lost. Look at the army size plummet. Mad Shiro is falling to pieces. He was about 170 army supply, and it's going, oh my, look at the army supply differences. Look at how tiny our army is. We just got decimated. But in this amount of time, I've managed to get a 4th base on the way. I've got 3 bases. I'm beginning to catch up, and I've been getting my upgrades consistently too, so that way I can keep up with everything that's going on. I have a greater spire. I'm getting ready for the late game, all of that type of thing. But one of the big parts about coming potential is going to come up. So we're just going to watch this in ×2, and we were at about 170, 180 or so for Mad Shiro in army size. And one of the things about this game is it's easy or less expensive to rebuild an army compared to growing your total army size. So if you want your army to be bigger than it is, it's pretty expensive because you got to build overlords or barracks and things like that. But if you want to remax, it actually isn't quite as expensive to do. And as a result, you can make a really big mistake like that and engage in a Splash Vikings when you shouldn't, and still come back, which is pretty awesome. We're starting to see that already come into play here. It was about 15 minutes when he made that huge mistake, and our opponents have got this ridiculous total air tech. Have I thought to go Defilers yet? No, I will think to go Defilers at some point. It'll take me a little bit of time, but so much oh look, he misspelled the bunker placement. So more and more harassment coming across over and over again. We're gonna go ahead and sack this base, but go ahead and look at the army supply now. In 2 minutes, Mad Shiro went from pretty much his whole army being dead back to his full army size and almost the biggest army on the map at the moment. And finally, I'm starting to catch up. I've got 332, which will help. So that's a result of this system that allows faster and less expensive rebuilding of army, but in comparison, more expensive growth of army total size. I'm gonna come in here and take a pretty bad engagement, and things are about to get dicey. So, Mad Shiro out on the map, doing what he does, and containing the opponent. And if you might notice something, there are no minerals here anymore. There are a lot of minerals here because Foxy Mayhem delayed his natural expansion, but we're starting to run out of minerals. Only 250 or so per base at each player, except for me. I'm at 700, 650 or so, and I do think to go Defilers here. And Mad Shiro's base is finally falling down. His army is small, his income is beginning to drop, and everyone's income is beginning to drop as well. And I'm gonna try to take an engagement over here. I forget if this goes well. 1 second, let's take a look. Plague-oo! Come on, Plague! Come on, Plague! This is the first time I've ever used Defilers. Not even in Broodboard did I use Defilers, because I was scared of using Spellcasters, and that's a pretty normal thing. Cut a couple of Plagues off. I think this Plague hits the rest of the air. Oh no! Don't Plague them. Plague the Broodlords. You passed JaKaTaK. But I get a decent engagement over here. The main thing to look at is the incomes, right? The incomes are starting to come down. And this is all a result. The fact that I've been able to get to this point, taking 2 bases at the same time, the fact that I've been able to get to this point is a direct result of this being a 2 versus 2 RTS instead of a 1 versus 1 RTS. Now, oh, hold on. I should hold on. Let's just, hold on a second. All you 1v1 RTSers out there, don't worry. There is 1 versus 1 version. It's not my favorite kind of Vanguard to play, right? Not my favorite kind of RTS to play in this particular sense. We're having a focus on 2v2, but 1 versus 1 will also be there. We'll also have 3 versus 3 and free-for-all. There will be all kinds of game modes to play. Don't panic. That said, let's get back to the game. And some sick, sick Plagues. Oh my god, look at this. Look at the low hit point stuff. If only they were all in range of my Nidus Destroyer, which is, by the way, pretty much the only thing that's stopping this army from running in. If you notice, there are almost no units. We have some Hydralisks hatching right now, but with the Broodlords, it's gonna be really tough to deal with. I'm gonna come in with my units, start shaving some things off. We do have the Remax from Foxy Mayhem coming in, and that's gonna help. We can get a slow-mo now. And turns out Vikings are quite good on the ground as well in Vanguard. A little bit unintuitive if you're used to StarCraft, but man, tearing this apart. There aren't that many reinforcements. We got this Nidus Destroyer over here. We got this Nidus Destroyer over here. Despite the fact that our opponent has an army right outside our base, because of the stronger defender's advantage, it's very, very scary for them to move in. Because we can rebuild Remax very quickly, and if they come into us too soon, they will lose the game. And that's gonna buy us basically enough time to fight this back. And that defender's advantage, that quicker Remax, is all part of mistake forgiveness. The idea that you can play the game, make some mistakes, but if you consistently play better than your opponent, one mistake is not going to ruin your game. One mistake isn't going to, bam, drop you all of a sudden and you're out of the game. Oh my god, Plagues! Love Plagues. So finally getting these things down. Very, very few units to even come back into this in the slightest. At this point, by the way, the mains are pretty much mined out. Yeah, we're at main mine out phase. There we go. Excellent, the mains are mined out. And because the mains are such a huge part of the economy, this is a really big moment. Somewhere around, 22 minutes or so, the mains will mine out. And that it doesn't put a hard cap on the game time, but it does seriously cut into the chances of the game going on forever and ever and ever, because the expansions are so much smaller than the main by comparison. Everything gets drawn to the center. And that's not really about comeback potential, but I think it's kind of a cool thing that's happening. So we're gonna talk about it. We do like to, mix it up, talk about a bunch of different things. My base gets taken out, but at this point in time, I've been carried so hard by Mad Shiro almost the whole game, and finally it's my time to shine. I've got the biggest army on the board. This hasn't happened for the entire game, and finally, after so much effort, like a heroic effort from Mad Shiro, basically, to keep the enemy off my back while I can get going, I now have the biggest army on the field. And it's just incredible to have that experience, to go all the way from pretty much nothing to being able to use the retreat ability, the defender's advantage, mistake forgiveness, all of these different things. I mean, really, my opening was a big mistake. And the prioritization of mistake forgiveness basically allowed me to come in and come back, get the biggest army, throw down some plagues, a little bit on the minerals there, bugs are real, and close out the game. This is where it ends, and that's it. That is the super comeback game, and this is one of the things that I just love so much about Vanguard. You might think, oh well, that was a really cool comeback game. Great. One cool comeback game. The thing that ties this all together for me is that this is a regular occurrence. Players falling behind, teams falling behind, coming back. And more commonly, it's not this one team falls behind and for the rest of the game they come back and sometimes they win. Usually it's more like one team falls behind, the other team falls behind, the other team falls behind. It's this very back and forth nature, and it's not just a fluke. It's not just this, oh man, that's so cool. This is this rare occurrence. We have to get really excited just because it's rare. It's common, but because it's not just like because it's common, all of a sudden it's dumb. Or because it's common, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you know, comebacks happen. It's this core part of the game that just makes it so fun and exciting to play. And we actually, because comeback potential, defender's advantage are so much stronger than in StarCraft 2, when we have StarCraft 2 players come over into Vanguard, we have to specifically tell them, don't leave the game when you think it's over. Ask your ally first. First of all, politeness. We're getting used to the one versus team dynamic. But also because comeback potential is way bigger. You have a lot of opportunities to come back, and you need to just fight it out into the end. And basically the end result of that is what we talked about in the beginning, where this time between should I even try and the game is over becomes so much smaller than we're used to. And in doing that, we're gonna keep working on it, right? We're gonna keep trying to get that smaller and smaller. Hopefully we can eliminate it completely. It seems kind of idealistic, maybe we won't be able to, but we're gonna keep trying because the emotional experience of the player is important to us. And the idea of having fun while playing a competitive game is important to us. And we don't think that they need to be separate things. Having fun and being competitive, they don't have to be different. You don't have to define yourself as a casual player or a competitive player. And the competitive players are really serious. And all the casual players like, I just don't care about anything. I don't even really try when I play. You know, like, it's not that hyperbolic. And, you know, you can come back. You can try, you can make mistakes, you can recover from those mistakes all in the same game, and you can come back. And it's almost always worth continuing to fight, and you don't get stuck in that awful. It's like, if you think about it, in StarCraft, your job is to break the will of your opponent, because the game doesn't end when the official game ends, right? The official game ending scenario is you've destroyed all of your opponent's buildings. I don't even know how many. It's I don't know, maybe I can 5-10 times I've seen that actually happen in a game, either that I've played or that I've watched. Like, that never happens. So StarCraft becomes this game of, are you gonna give up? My job as the winner, as the victor, as the person who's ahead, is to force you to surrender. And that's awful. That's awful. We don't need that. We don't need that. There's this idea that goes around that is just the way it is. And that's a necessary part of real-time strategy games. But I don't think that's the case. And I think that we've done it, basically, and we're gonna continue to improve on it, but we've done that in Vanguard. So give it a try. Let us know what you think. We'll see you soon.